Welcome to the CU 2.0 podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the CU 2.0 podcast with big new ideas about credit unions and conversations about innovative technology with credit union and fintech leaders. This podcast is brought to you by Quillo, the real-time loan syndication network for credit unions, and by your host, longtime credit union and financial technology journalist Robert McGarvey. And now, the CU 2.0 podcast with Robert McGarvey.
Talking about credit, debit card disputes, and chargebacks. Probably you don't want to, for good reason. One estimate is that there were $62.5 billion in chargebacks in 2023. And at most credit unions, every chargeback or dispute involves a lot of staff time. It's an expensive matter, and it often profoundly irritates members, at least some of whom decide to change FIs as a result. More worrisome is that increasing numbers of Americans file disputes, often just as a way to get an easy 50 or 100 back in their own pockets. Lots of disputed charges nowadays are simply fraudulent. Enter Casap, which automates the dispute process, and in the process resolves cases much faster and at dramatically lower costs. And on the show is the CEO and co-founder, Shanthi, Shanmugam, and she will tell us all about the 21st century way to handle disputes. Listen up. Now, let's start with the hard stuff. How do you say your name, both names, and how do you say the name of the company?
My first name is Shanthi. Shanthi Shanmugam. It's like Shanmugam. It's like Shanthi.
Okay, I got Shanthi. Okay, that part.
Yeah.
Now, listen.
And then the company's called Casap, like get your case done ASAP, Casap.
Oh, okay, cool. And what got me was you said that you could tell a credit union a story where a credit union reduced losses, et cetera, with chargebacks and disputes 51%.
Yes.
And increased customer member loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this dispute field and chargeback field, why is this a big deal? And why isn't everybody else looking at this? Why is this little company, venture backed, by the way? So it's not just out of your garage and your pocket. You do have venture money. So why hasn't a big guy jumped on this?
Yeah, that is such a good question. I'll start by talking a little bit about just like what a dispute is. Like, what does it actually mean for a member and for an institution? And I will say the big guys they have some solutions out there right now, but there's this sort of latent pain and this cost to it that people just sort of accept it as like, oh, this is just how disputes are. They can't get any better. That's kind of what we've done is in the last couple of years since we started the company, we've challenged a lot of those assumptions. And now I think people are starting to take notice. So let me start by talking a little bit about just disputes, right? So like, I mean, Robert, you know what a dispute is. It's someone looking at a transaction on their card. Maybe they're looking at their account, Sunday evenings, like, oh, what's the damage this month? And they're like, oh, that transaction, that's not me. They ask their spouse, like, was that you? No, that wasn't you. Like, okay, now they're freaking out, right? Like that's what a dispute is. That's one of the disputes. Another dispute could be, oh my God, I made this transaction. I ordered this thing, but they gave me the wrong thing. I ordered a red laptop and they gave me like, I don't know, a pink blender. Like, no, this absolutely isn't right. This isn't good. This is fraud. I won't help, right? So those are the two situations with disputes. And what's happening for members today, so let's go back to that first one where someone sees this charge that wasn't them, and they're kind of freaking out. They're like, okay, if it's this transaction, are there other transactions that aren't mine? And is my account compromised? And I need help. And at this point, they want to talk to someone. And I will say a lot of our institutions out there don't give members a way to talk to them 24/7, right? So at this point, maybe this member has to wait and they need to put a reminder on to call their credit union Monday morning as soon as the branch opens, and they'll call And then this whole process, Robert, it's a 30-minute call answering a bunch of different questions, half of which you think the credit union should already know the answer to. So you're still freaking out. Like, oh, am I going to get covered? Like, is what's going to happen? Now they're going to replace your card. And then they say they create a dispute. And then it's crickets, right? It's crickets for, on average, it takes 45 to 90 days to resolve a dispute. And if you say, hey, I didn't make this transaction, there's actually a rule, Reg E, that says, okay, if this is on your debit card, you didn't make this transaction. All right, the institution, the credit union has to they have to make you whole with this like provisional credit, right? Within the first 10 business days. So maybe they give you that. Maybe they do the investigation. They're like, okay, this probably isn't you. We trust you. Here's your provisional credit. And then you think maybe you think it's done, but over the course of the next, 30 to 60 days, the credit union is going through this chargeback process, right, with that merchant. They're saying, hey, this wasn't our member. Please give us money back. Maybe they didn't have the evidence they needed up front from that phone call. Maybe they're sending you snail mail, like a letter in your mailbox that you haven't seen, that where they were looking for information and they didn't get it. So at the end of those 60 days, maybe they've lost that chargeback. And what they do after they lose that chargeback is they come back to you and they take that provisional credit, they take that away, right? That money that you felt like was rightfully yours, that made you whole, they take that away. And in that situation, what are you thinking? You're thinking, all right, not only was my information compromised, but when I reached out for help, I didn't get it. And when I thought I got it, they took it away. My trust is gone. Like this relationship is damaged. And I'm very likely, like you're very likely looking for another financial relationship. So that is a very common experience with disputes today. And to answer your question around like, all right, like, how are we kind of thinking about this problem and how are we kind of doing it differently than what's being done today? Well, I mean, think about any experience a member has, getting a refund on Amazon, right? Or even ordering a pizza on Domino's, where you literally know when you get toppings on your pizza. Why can't we bring that experience to a really intense situation like disputes? Why can't we let you, the moment you see that scrolling through your account, you see that transaction you'll recognize, why can't you say, wait, this isn't me. I have an issue with this transaction. Let me just go right within my online banking app and answer some questions to create a dispute. And at that moment, making sure that it's not just like, a black box for the next 10 days or the next 90 days, I get this status tracker, kind of like my Domino style pizza tracker that tells me exactly what's going on, right? And here's the thing. Even if you give them a really easy way of creating a dispute and then you show them the status, if that status still says 90 days, that's not getting that much better. But what if we can take the same sort of streamlined experience and give it to the credit union and enable them to use all of the data, right? All the data they already have in their core and the network, all of that. And why can't a platform kind of tell them, hey, we know Robert, he's a good guy, like hasn't really filed these disputes before. We asked him all the information we need up front. We have a really high confidence. We think there's a 95% chance we're going to win back this money through this chargeback. Let's just automatically give him his provisional credit. And let's file that chargeback in a way where we're going to win it. And we're going to win it quickly, right? And we can do all of that without actually needing the employees at the credit union to actually look at every single case. So now they're spending their time looking at the cases where it's a little bit in the gray area, right? Like maybe we asked the member some questions, they said some answers, but their answers aren't matching up with what we know about them and their account and the system. We actually think they might be trying to pull a fast one over us, because what's actually happening today, Robert, is that for every one person that's telling the truth, there's at least like 5 people that aren't, because there's this huge awareness around disputes now. There's TikTok videos and YouTube videos saying that, hey, you're a little strapped on cash, just file a dispute and your credit union has to give you.
I didn't know that.
No, it's crazy. It is crazy. The stories we see.
Makes sense. Now let me interrupt here.
Yeah.
I've had an American Express account for much longer than you are old. And I've filed probably no more disputes in that time than you have digits on your hands and feet. And so if I file a dispute, they say, okay, fine, no problem. Here's your money back.
instantly. This is all automated. It's all online. You don't talk with a human being.
Yep.
And the machine says money's back. Boom. There is a little fine print there. They're going to deal with the merchant, and they could come back. But that's tiny print. You don't even bother to read it. And I've never had that eventuality.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're telling me credit union system and American Express has had this for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember ever having a dispute with them where I talk with a human being. I mean, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I do remember once. It was when I was charged twice for the same thing in the store because of a malfunction of their cash register within a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I called them up and they said, "Oh, fine, we'll just erase that one." But I did have to talk to somebody.
Yep.
And now, so is my experience with them? Am I hallucinating about my experience with American Express? And is the experience at credit unions totally different? I've never had that experience. I have credit union accounts, but I've never disputed anything.
Yeah. No, you're not hallucinating. That is exactly what the Amex experience looks like. And with credit unions, a majority of them, it's not that streamlined, right? So, but I'll say two things there. One is I think your experience with Amex is now the de facto expectation that any member has with any financial relationship. So part of our mission here is to bring that experience at a fraction of the cost for credit unions at large. So everyone can be at that same sort of quality bar, right? But the second thing is Amex is a large organization, right? So if they're giving you credits, right? They could afford to give credits to folks that aren't telling the truth, right? So it's not that people are behaving differently with Amex than they are with their credit unions. It is a fact that I mean, this is what we call first party fraud, right? It is
Well, I pay $700 a year, I think, for that credit card. Let's say I ripped Amex off for $25. Big deal. I have never done that. In
yeah.
case they're listening, I never have done that. But I'm sure in their algorithm they say, hell, if it's $70 here or there, big deal.
Exactly right. Exactly right. That's exactly what they're saying. Big deal, right? And they can afford to do that. But it is actually a big deal, right? To a majority of the credit unions out there, it is a big deal that they can't just keep writing off everyone's, right? And here's the thing, Robert, because it's so manual and so expensive to manage disputes and manage chargebacks, which by the way, a lot of credit unions are outsourcing the chargeback aspect to their processors, right? Or someone else. And that also comes with its own fee, whether or not that chargeback is one, right? So because it's so expensive and so manual, credit unions also have what we call a write-off threshold, right? We'll say anything less than, like you just said, $75, anything less than $75, anything less than $50. We're just not going to look at it. It's not worth anyone's time. Let's just go ahead and issue them that credit. But then what does that do for those folks
that
that
that that fuels the TikTok guy saying, "Hey, anytime you're short $50, hey, just dispute that restaurant meal. You were never there, dude, and the meal sucked, by the way, anyway." So,
exactly right. You got it. That's exactly the problem. That's exactly
oh
this.
wow, now that's bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So, I mean, one of the things we do with that is by making it so simple to manage just these disputes and making it so intelligent, where at the moment of you finishing creating that dispute within your online banking, we have a really good sense on if you're telling a truth, if this is a legitimate claim or if it's not. We can immediately fork those two experiences. And because we make it so simple and significantly cheaper, we're able to help credit unions, one, reduce their write-off threshold, right? But two, make sure that the folks with legitimate claims get that instant credit the way you get it with Amex, right? Almost every time, right? And without needing to lose all the money to the folks that are not telling the truth. And that's how our credit union was able to improve member trust, right? Transform what's usually a frustrating experience to one that builds loyalty, the same loyalty you've had with Amex for years, without needing to lose the shirts on their backs to fraudsters, right? By actually reducing their fraud by over half.
Now, how do you do that? I assume this is super duper AI.
Just super AI, not super duper. I'm just kidding. It is. It's a function of two things. Like AI can't be that helpful if you don't give it the right data. So we are integrated with the majority of the cores out there. We are partners with the card networks, whether it's MasterCard or Visa. We pull all of this data as well as our history within the platform and the intelligence the platform has around what is Reg E, what is Reg Z, what are the indications of first party fraud. And all of that is essentially applied to the entire life cycle of a dispute, right? Whether it's at the beginning, right? So when you go into Amex and you say, all right, I don't recognize this charge, or I was double charged here, they're going to be asking you different questions on each situation. But if there's someone else that was also double charged on their card, that person is getting the same exact questions as you. That is the Amex experience today. But what we do is we kind of, I would say we clone the best fraud investigator, the best dispute investigator. We clone their minds and we put that logic at the beginning, right? When someone's creating a dispute. So what that looks like is, Robert, if you filed a lot of disputes with in general on your card, and you're now saying that you did not buy this $1,000 TV at Best Buy last week, but we see that you have purchased with Best Buy before, and then also you're telling me that you lost your card, but we see you disputing this charge from Best Buy last week, but you've been shopping groceries at your local grocery store since then on your card over and over again. Well, we're going to maybe ask you different questions than if someone was in a slightly different situation,
Well,
right?
many years ago, I was interviewing the CEO of 1-800-Flowers when that was a big monster company, and they had no 100% refund guarantee, no questions asked. So you call up and you say that the roses I sent my girlfriend on Valentine's Day came dead. They say, fine, refund. We'll replace it or give you your money back. What you want? I really would prefer my money back because I had to buy flowers. That's why. Actually, the flowers are perfect, but neither here nor there. So I said to him, is there a time when you say to that customer, don't buy from us anymore? We will not sell to you anymore. And he said, yeah. It's
I am so glad you brought that up because we actually do we help our institutions do the same thing, right? So we actually detect folks that are first party fraudsters, right? These people that are abusing disputes. And we actually automate what I call the let's be nice to each other email, right? It's this email that says, hey, we really value your relationship with our institution. It doesn't feel like you do too. Here are the list of 8 disputes that you filed, of which all of them were lost, and you've cost us a lot of money, and you keep losing your card, which, by the way, your plastic is a privilege, it's not a right. Can we be better here? Because if we can't, we're going to have a more serious conversation, right? So that's also something that we do. Because my theory
oh
here,
wait, is that part of the scam here? I'm not a good scammer, obviously. So I call up and I say, oh, that charge, that's not my charge. That I lost that card.
yeah,
Uh,
that is
oh
a
wow.
part of
That's
huge. That's not me. That's not
that,
me.
that also explains why it's in my exact same neighborhood that I live in.
Mhm.
Because
Exactly.
well, I lost it in the neighborhood. Some homeless guy picked it up and yeah,
And then
went to the
something back in my wallet, right? That's actually a great example. We'll see people saying they here's another one too. They'll say, "Oh, they won't even pretend they lost their card. They'll say, "Oh, I had my card, but that wasn't me." But we immediately see talking like hitting the network in real time. We can see that was a card present transaction that someone physically had your card and swiped it, right? So when we can see that, it's really hard to believe your story because someone must have come into your wallet, taken it, swiped it somewhere, put it back, and somehow you didn't know about it. So this is how kind of subtle first party fraud is, because usually when you say fraud, right, it's like I say it's the big F word of like fintech is fraud. You often think of someone stealing your identity and doing something with it, right, and compromising your accounts. That happens, don't get me wrong, it does. But what we're seeing with disputes and chargebacks, it's this first party fraud. The member is exactly who they say they are, and they actually, here's the thing, Robert, they don't even feel bad about it. That's the thing. They don't actually, a lot of people think that it's totally fine. It's totally fine to tell they consider it small fibs, white lies. They think it's totally fine to say their roses were a little dry when they weren't, right? And take advantage of those policies. So that's exactly what we're helping our credit unions tackle today without making everyone jump through the same hoops. Because if you are that person that was looking at their account, that Sunday evening and they see that transaction, they're freaking out. You don't want them to suffer, right? You don't want them to have to jump through all of these hoops as well, when you could look at all your data and see you have the evidence to win this money back for them, and they're probably telling the truth.
Yeah, and volume is as you said, a really key issue. I know when I return something to Amazon, which is extremely rare, I'm credited the second the package is dropped off at UPS or at the Whole Foods store. This second you get a text message or an email, literally within a minute, saying, "Hey, your refund's been processed." It's but I don't do this every week. So now,
And
how many credit unions do you have as customers?
we have 10 as of now.
What's the size range?
They
Small
range
to big.
they range from, I mean, we have them across 300 million in assets to 9 billion in assets.
9 billion. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. See, I would have thought maybe they could do home cooking with this if they have 9 billion in assets. But
And here's the thing, for a lot of people, the home cooking, right? The homegrown solutions, a lot of, like, some institutions, especially the larger ones, are definitely capable of it, but it's not a question of could they do it, it's should they do it, right? Like, is this a strategic use of their time and their resources that's going to be a huge competitive differentiator, which it can be, building loyalty can be, but knowing the rules, knowing how fraud evolves, knowing that the networks, MasterCard and Visa, change the rules a couple of times a year. So maintaining all of that and continuing, and sometimes you'll have one person that builds that system and that person moves on to a different part of the organization. And then people are left being like, wait, how does this work again? How do we do disputes? So a lot of times these organizations aren't looking to necessarily build. It just doesn't make sense for them, right? So that's what we've been saying.
well, also, I think from what you're saying that this is becoming more and more of a problem where it's become kind of systemic. So many people apparently think it's normal to charge back something once a week. I got six cards. I can rotate it once a week. I mean,
There you go.
and
There,
boom, suddenly I'm making $400 a month extra. It's
there. That's exactly.
that's that, and you do the math, and you say, wait, this is a national disaster.
It is. It is. But I do believe that we can actually rehabilitate this behavior. We can rehabilitate these relationships. I don't think we need to completely cut the cord there. I think we can just say, hey, it's actually wrong. And honestly, you're robbing yourself here because you are making it really hard for us to serve you. So I mean, I have, even as a fraud fighter, I have a lot of faith in humanity. So I do think it could be better, and I do think our company can have a huge role to play in that.
Most financial institutions, probably all financial institutions, have a policy that says basically, if you bounce X number of checks in such and such a period of time, you're no longer going to be our customer. We're going to close this account. And many of the people bouncing those checks are not doing it because they're criminals. They're doing it because they're cash short or really bad at math. So, but an institution could have the same policy with credit cards. You have 10 chargebacks in 10 months and goodbye. See you later.
Yeah. And that's the thing, disputes happen across all payment types, right? So like we're like this unified platform where you can handle all of them, but whether it's credit, debit, ACH, and also think about P2P, think about Zelle, think about those converts, think about cash.
Well, my understanding with Zelle, I'm glad you mentioned that. Most institutions take a pretty hard line with Zelle.
Yes.
It's so if I say I did not authorize that $1,000 to this plumber, they say you must have. The tooth fairy did not. Sorry, goodbye.
Yeah.
Am I right? Now I've only used Zelle a few times, always with contractors, and my credit union asked me like 5 times, "Are you sure you want to send this $1,200 to this plumber?" Yes, I am. Do you know this plumber? Yeah. Of course I do. So that's all automated. So this is not a conversation, but I've affirmed like many times that yes, I'm doing this consciously.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand if the institution would say, hey, wait, we give you every chance not to do this.
You're understanding. You're very understanding. Not everyone is just as understanding. So we still see members filing disputes for scams that happen on Zelle, right? They sent a payment and it wasn't, it was under false pretenses. Maybe they sent a payment and didn't get the couch that they were supposed to get, right? So they'll still file a dispute. I think part of that is you're right. There's not the institutions do take a hard line, and it's about actually just setting that expectation up front with that member and not giving them hope, making them go through all these hoops, all these processes, and let them know, 10 days later, yeah, there's no go here, right? Like it's an opportunity to say, hey, this is Zelle, this was you, this is honest 100% of the time. We're not going to be giving you, credit for this. Like, let's just tell you right up front. And it's a hard conversation to have, but it's a conversation you'd rather have in the beginning than make them go through a lot and have it at the end.
That consumer is using the wrong tool to pay for this couch. I mean, if you want fallback positions, use certain credit cards.
Yeah.
Because the credit card issues will be a little bit more understanding. Now, what's the credit union? Here's this. And they say, well, that's pretty cool because we definitely have some dispute and chargeback problems. And yeah, we are spending way too many human hours dealing with this. So automation sounds really cool. Mm-hmm. 2 questions. What's the cost to the institution, number 1? And number 2, what's the time frame? What's the process in getting alive and active?
Love those questions. So if a credit union hears this and they're excited, right, to learn more. So number 1, set up time with us. Go to our website, casapHQ.com. You can book a demo. You'll probably be talking to me or someone on our mighty team. But the process to go live, as well as what the cost looks like, our costs, and you'll see this in the case study as well, we aim to at least provide at a minimum 30% cost reduction per month compared to what the credit union is spending today to process a dispute and chargeback. At a minimum, we see that, but if you read our case study with Mid-South Community Federal Credit Union, we actually helped drop those costs by 90%. It's been really great that I will say by the time credit unions have a couple of conversations with us, I will say it's almost a foregone conclusion that every month they're not working with us, they are losing money they don't have to. So that's number 1. And then number 2, in terms of the process to go live, we work with institutions that, definitely don't have many technical resources to actually do to build any of this, to integrate any of this, all of that. So we take all of that off their plates. Our team has really solid playbooks and great integrations with core providers, with card networks, with digital banking vendors, and any other systems in between. So the process to go live with us, we call it a crawl, walk, run process, where we will get you live on an aspect of Casap, usually the case management of a dispute end to end with the automations around email, et cetera. We'll try to do that within 60 days of the kickoff, right? And then over the course of the next couple of months, it all depends on their specific setup and their specific processor stack, core stack, et cetera. But there's very specific instructions that'll help get them live, say, in under 6 months. That's our goal.
So why wouldn't a credit union say, this sounds like something we should do?
Honestly, I think everyone has a million things on their plate. And yes, this is something they should do, but maybe there's something else that they really need to do now, right? So for us, like when I think about it, it's usually just time and priorities and awareness too, right? We're a new kid on the block. Last year was our first year in the market. So I think a lot of credit unions don't just know about us yet. But once they start talking to us, it gets hard for them to answer that question too. Why wouldn't we do this now? So it's just the processes and prioritization that.
Well, I tell you, if I were running your sales organization, I'd say, here's what I want to do. Let's go into this credit union. I'm going to show this bozo 3 TikToks, just 3. Before you open your mouth, keep quiet. Let me show these things. And then I'd say, so you want to talk to her or not?
I love it.
Because we're busy. We're busy, man.
I love it. I might do that. And you're always welcome to join our team, Robert, too, if you want to do that. You can be the one that goes in and shows them TikToks. I love it.
Because that's what gets me when this becomes commonplace.
Hmm.
And again, we're usually talking about trivial amounts of money here, 50, $100 here and there. But you add it up and you say, well, now this has ceased to be trivial. It's becoming a big issue.
Yeah.
And I could see this becoming kind of a generational thing of, oh, it's cool. It's cool. You're not hurting anybody. How big is Bank of America? Really, it's
They can put it
yeah, it's they won't even notice it, to be honest.
back.
It's that's a problem. It would really threaten our whole credit card system if this became commonplace.
Yeah. It's just, I don't think we should accept the cost of disputes and the entitlement and expectations from the members around this, especially when they're lying about things. We should not accept it as a cost of doing business here. I think we can hold the
I
right.
don't know that we can accept it really. If it
Yeah.
becomes commonplace, it's a threat to the whole established credit card system,
Uh,
really.
it is. It absolutely is.
And I'm not usually a doomsday sort of person. Now let's flash back to something I should have asked you a while ago, but I think it's just as fine to ask you now. Why and when did you get the idea for this? I mean, you're a Berkeley computer science major. You
Hmm.
worked at Facebook, you worked at Robinhood. And when did this idea kick into your head saying, I want to automate disputes?
That's a good question. It's a good question. I did not come out of the womb thinking I want to fix disputes. So definitely, definitely came up along the way. And honestly, it's actually pretty clear to me when the idea kind of landed. So during my time at Robinhood, and I was there, from the early days, and I'd worked on a lot of things not really related to disputes. Like one of the first things I worked on was enabling, crypto investing, and then thinking about how do we elevate Robinhood beyond just folks that already know exactly what they want to invest in and want to do it for free. So elevate it beyond a utility to make a trade to, a way people think about engaging with their wealth, and growing their wealth. So I thought a lot about that, but then when the whole GameStop situation came up and we had, millions of members at the time, and they wanted clarity on what was going on, and it was hard for them to get the clarity, hard for them to get the answers. That point we had email support, and with so many people having questions at the same time, the response times were just not great. People started asking themselves, can I really trust this institution with all of my money, right? And at that moment, like the answer is yes, you absolutely can, but we needed a way to share that with them. So one of the projects I worked on was launching 24/7 phone support followed by 24/7 chat support. And you think, oh yeah, duh, like a lot of institutions have that, but doing that in a way that scales, right, for the volume
and
of.
and actually putting it so it works. I can show you credit unions where they have 24/7 phone support. But if you
Mhm.
call outside of normal banking hours, their banking hours,
Yeah,
the person who answers the phone does not have access to the core. That
yeah.
person cannot tell you a single thing about your account. They can tell you, oh, this is our policy about that. They can, flip to. But if you have a specific question, why didn't you process my damn car payment? It's
Exactly.
there's it. Well, I call back tomorrow.
Exactly. No, that's exactly right. So there's a level of expectation where it's like, if I'm trusting you with my money, you better give me the time and you better know everything I expect you to know to help me get my issue resolved. Right. Like that is an expectation, and it's a completely reasonable expectation. So when me and my team had thought about, okay, how do we launch 24/7 phone support? How do you do chat support? We did it in a very thoughtful way. And here's the key, Robert. You can't just make a member experience better and leave the back office with, honestly, a really, really terrible experience, right? Like the back office experience is the member experience. Like you said, if they don't have access to the core, how can they actually resolve that member's issue? So that's what I spent time doing at ROM. So we launched 24/7 phone support, followed it up with 24/7 chat support. But when I thought about it, I was like, okay, cool. Now everyone has access. They're talking to people, but for these really tricky fraud related cases, whether it's I can't get into my account, my portfolio is tanking, or I don't recognize this transaction, help me out. They were still taking weeks, right? A couple of months. And to me, I was like, well, how do we get that resolved in one touch or zero touches, like we've been talking about? And my team was responsible for thinking about that. And like you said, homemade, right? We did our own homegrown solution that would continue to provide this great quality of support at scale, these first touch resolutions. Like a member of my team figured out how to help people get back into their account, getting all the information they need up front. Because we know for every person trying to do that, there's four people trying to take over someone else's account, right? Especially when you're a household name like Robinhood. So as we thought about that, I kept thinking, okay, well, we can't possibly be the only institution that needs to build something like this. And it honestly doesn't make sense for each institution to build this. And my co-founder was at Chime, and he had actually helped streamline their dispute process, direct integrations with the networks, resolve a lot of this through self-service, and save them tons of money in like just the first year of launching that. So when we kind of like thought about it, we were like, wow, we built very similar things because the rules are the same, the systems, the networks, the integrations are the same, and fraud looks very similar too. People are people, no matter who they're banking with. So at that point, this was, what was this? Maybe summer of 2022. We started thinking, okay, it might make sense. It might make sense to actually bring this to every financial institution and provide that Amex experience that you've come to love and trust. And it's probably why you're still paying them what you do for that experience, but bring that to every issuer, right? And you bet on the merchant side, there's tons of companies that are helping them fight chargebacks and automatically respond and all of that. And then it was just kind of lacking on the issuer side. And it's just, I think we've just been it kind of came through very, very organically. And when we started the company in 2023, it was already with a lot of confidence that this is a real problem. And it's a problem that if we solve, completely changes the fraud that people, like the losses people are willing to accept. It changes the level of service people can provide to their members. And it also gives community financial institutions a chance. It really gives them a chance to compete with the very large behemoths that can afford to honestly write off tons, millions in losses a year to provide
And they can also afford to buy really good technology to
yeah,
automate this process. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. As you're talking, I'm flashing on. I have a credit union credit card that I rarely use, and the reason I rarely use it, even though I'm a big fan of credit unions, is I called them up soon after I got the card, and I said, I'm a little puzzled. I'm looking at the website. I don't see where I could set up auto pay,
Hmm.
and they said you can't. I said, oh, okay, thank you. I don't want to have to remember to pay a credit card bill every month.
Hmm.
It's not something I want to do in my life. And so every credit card I have is set up to do auto pay. All the ones I use, at least. So that card is just sitting in my wallet. It's actually in a tertiary wallet. It's not actually in the wallet I carry. It's,
Hmm.
it's a wallet that sits on my desk.
It's
So
on your desk. You're like, where's that card? I've never
yeah,
really, yeah, totally, totally. Yeah.
it's but I'm raising that point because it reminds me a lot of credit unions, and this is a big credit union. A lot of credit unions are way behind the curve in terms of technology and tools that increase member satisfaction. And stands to reason. I've never disputed anything on that credit card because I don't buy anything.
Mhm.
It's but I imagine it would be a lot of human interaction, very time consuming, a real pain. That would just be my guess if they don't even have auto pay set up.
Yeah, it's
So
an understatement. It's a huge pain. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
how long did it take you to get your first client, your first customer?
Think our first client, so the way, I mean, our philosophy with building this product is you pick the right clients that have all the right problems, and then you really kind of collaborate with them on figuring out what outcomes do you need to drive. So we call those design partners, right? So like, who are folks that are willing to take a bet on a young team, with this vision. So we actually signed our first design partner within 4 months of starting the company. But when I think about a client, a multi-year relationship, someone that is using this product that we've built already, that first client was the last February. That last February was our first like multi-year sort of relationship. And since then it's been really great. And I think what I love, one of the things I love so many things about the credit union community, but that whole like the motto around people helping people, you see it as our clients are collaborating, right, with each other, or as we talk to a new credit union that might want to talk to us, we introduce them to any of our credit union clients, and they're not just talking about, okay, the impact of Casap and how they thought about the partnership, et cetera, but they're also asking each other questions of things even outside of disputes, where they're just really trying to collaborate. They're saying, "Oh, I'm seeing this. Are you seeing this? Or how are you tackling this, this fraud trend that just popped up?" So there's something really, really exciting about that. And we really want to foster more of that as well, more of that dialogue. But I think honestly, like, imagine this, if all the credit unions in a specific region were sharing information on, okay, this is what we're seeing with disputes, and here are some like members that were like, then they can actually have a more cohesive approach to all of these conversations. So, I mean, you asked me one question, but one of the things that we've built and we're continuing to refine is what I consider kind of like the FICO score equivalent for like first party fraud, right? Like, if you have something like a credit score that helps someone figure out, okay, what type of customers can I lend them money, can I trust them with this? Why can't how they behave with their financial institution be an element of that as well? So that is
Hey, if I were a credit issuer, I'd love to have that number
right.
if it was believable. Yeah,
Exactly.
FICO scores I view as interesting because FICO score tells me about your past behavior. Its ability to predict future behavior isn't clear to me.
I agree with
Uh,
that. I agree
and
with that.
Whereas if I apply for a credit card and you can look and say, oh, well, he's had 7 chargebacks a month for, well, 7 years. That's interesting. No, thank you.
Yes.
That would be useful data, I think. That'd be cool. I'm not saying it's easy to collect that data, but that would be very cool.
And it's something that we are building out as we work with more and more clients. And I mean, to my point around, we can change this problem, we can make it so that it's not a problem at all. Wouldn't someone change their behavior if they knew that there were repercussions to behaving in an untruthful way with their financial institution? Like, I think
Oh,
that.
I think you're absolutely right. I think a lot of this is, I was reading, a guy named Abby Hoffman wrote a book, Steal This Book, that came out in 1972 in the heyday of the hippie era. And in that book, which there was a 50th anniversary reissue, and I've been reading it recently. Yeah, he talks about how, you just go in the grocery store and you can steal all your lunch for that day. You don't have to pay anything for it. This was not seeing that there were repercussions to doing this. It's,
Mhm.
you're hungry, okay, go steal. Over time, I think certainly baby boomers, my generation, realized that idle shoplifting was harmful to the system. it's it's not good for the economy. And I can see a younger generation saying, "Oh, this chargeback thing, man, that sounds cool. I can get a free restaurant meal once a week. Cool. All my friends are doing it, so it can't be that bad." So I'm not saying these are bad people. I understand that kind of group think.
Yeah.
Uh, but man, this is bad. I had no idea this was TikToks. I gotta find these damn TikToks.
TikTok, you find them on YouTube, you find them everywhere. It's a gray area, right? Like, how do you, like, what is an opportunity to take advantage of a good deal versus something that's just wrong? Like, it just, I think sometimes the lines can feel blurry for people, and I personally don't think they are.
I think they blur the lines in their mind to make themselves feel comfortable
Conveniently
with their
blurred, right?
behavior. It's the, oh, everybody's doing this, so I must be a sucker if I'm not doing this. So I'll do it too. Yeah, I feel a little uncomfortable, but everybody's doing it. Well, am I some kind of unique fool that I'm not doing it? Well, you're raising a lot of moral issues here.
I am. Should we turn this into a conversation on philosophy?
Yeah, well, hey, computer science blends into philosophy at certain places, believe it or not.
Definitely, especially in this age of AI. But yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, the so-called Turing test. And where now there's all kinds of machines passing the Turing test.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we go, think hard about how you can help support this podcast so we can do more interviews with more thoughtful leaders in the credit union world. What we're trying to figure out here in these podcasts is what's next for credit unions. What can they do to really, really, really make a difference in the financial scene? Can't all be mega banks, can it? It's my hope it won't all be mega banks. It'll always be a place for credit unions. That's what we're discussing here. So figure out how you can help. Get in touch with me. This is rjmcgarvey@gmail.com. Robert McGarvey again. That's rjmcgarvey@gmail.com. Get in touch. We'll figure out a way that you can help. We need your support. We want your support. We thank you for your support. The CU 2.0 podcast.